Welcome to Sit, Stay, Read, the podcast for every wag, whinny, and whisker. I'm Kathleen Donnelly, award-winning author and retired canine handler. Each week, I chat with novelists about the bond we share with our furry friends and how they inspire stories. Grab a coffee, get cozy with your favorite pet. It's time to sit, stay, read. Today, I am so excited to welcome Catherine O'Connell, a fellow Colorado author, to the show. Her latest thriller, Steep and Deep, is set in a beautiful town of Aspen, Colorado, one of my all-time favorite Colorado towns. It's full of twists and turns and a really fun four-legged character and some other animal characters we're going to talk about a little bit throughout the interview. So, Catherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. It's so nice to meet you. It's so fun to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on. I loved your book. I mean, I could not put it down. I was like, I was trying to find time throughout the day to keep reading it to see what happened. You kept the tension so strong throughout. It was just awesome. So I'd love for you to tell our listeners about Steep and Deep and your inspiration for the story and give us a little history with it.
Well, as we know, or as you know, I'm a writer. I've been writing, my first book was published in 1993, and then I fell off the face of the earth, got republished in 2007, and I've had several published, more than several. But well, first, I've always wanted to write a book about a Colorado ski patroller, but
Yeah.
I had other topics, and I sold this book called The Last Night Out, also called The Bachelorette Party for ebook. But it did super well. So my publisher called me like practically, I'm serious, within the same year. And they said, "Can you give me a series?" I'm like, "A
Wow.
series?" I said, "Well, I always wanted to write a series that nobody's doing." Like, well, I always wanted to write a ski patrol book. They said, "Okay, good. Can you have it in 9 months?" So I
Oh
said,
my gosh.
okay. So I did First Tracks, and that is the prequel to Steep and Deep with ski patroller Greta Westerlind, who was a Milwaukee girl who couldn't stand the gray winters and went to Aspen, Colorado, and went through all the trials and tribulations of finding a place to live and getting to be a better skier. And then after time, she ended up as this female ski patroller. So that's number 2 in the series, and I'm actually working on The Last Resort now.
Oh, good.
But there was a big delay between First Tracks and Steep and Deep because of COVID. It's just
Okay.
First Tracks came out the day of COVID, I swear. And
Oh
then
gosh.
the book industry just kind of pulled their set in their tails a lot. And so it took me until this publishing to get anything published, to get this book published. So anyhow, that's sort of the story. But you may you'll have no trouble having me talk through this whole thing because I'm just a talker.
Excited.
Oh, but I always say to my audiences, if I speak at a library or on the radio or anything, I always say, I want you to know I don't write anything the way I speak because writing's so different. You get to sit and think about what you're going to say and you don't say, and yeah, and that. So I want our listeners to know that. But I was a ski bum in 1978 to
Oh, wow.
1980 in
Okay.
Aspen. Yeah, I mean, it was the olden days then, so I remember it really well.
Yeah.
No gondola, not a lot. I mean, there were rich people, but they didn't want to be rich because they wanted to hang out with the ski patrollers and the ski instructors, actually, who were like the most important property in town. And so on. So I've seen the whole, my husband and I bought a place in Aspen then in 1993 or
Okay.
1988, 88. And then um, I'm trying to get my timeline. Oh yeah, we moved full time in 2000, but we spent a lot of time
Okay.
there in between. 93 must have been a publishing date. Anyhow, oh yeah, and my first published book was called Skins, and that was inspired by Aspen when they were doing the anti-fur movement.
Oh, yes, that's
That
right.
was the
I
murder
forgot
of a
about
fur
that.
model. So Aspen has quite an influence in my writing. So
As it should, it's this amazing, charming town. And I think one of the things I loved about your book is you show you kind of have the conflict between the past and the present in both the setting, the characters, everything. And I was shocked you're talking about housing prices. So I'll admit I got on and Googled like, okay, if I wanted to buy a house in Aspen right now. And the first house that came up for sale was 300 million. I said to my
Yeah,
husband, that's
no,
300 million, right? He was like, oh
no,
my
it's crazy.
gosh.
We bought there in
Yeah.
'88 and we sold in 2015 and moved down Valley to Algebel. I don't know if you know the real estate there, but now I look at it and I think, I said to my husband, I am so not meant to be rich because we sold for all this craziness. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Colorado housing prices has increased, but I was just shocked. Do you have any
well,
ideas about what has brought that into Aspen? More so
yes,
than other mountain
because
towns, I think. I don't know.
yeah, oh yeah, and I have a friend. In fact, my friend who's up in Fort Collins lived in Jackson Hole forever. She was a teacher, and then she'd retired, and she sold her place. And same thing. Then she just saw it go through the roof, because what happened
Yeah.
was COVID. COVID is what happened, and
Okay.
yeah, and so the whole world was afraid, and they wanted to go somewhere safe, so they started going to mountain towns in Colorado, and a
Okay.
lot of I'm not in Aspen anymore, but I'm close. Aspen has 80 billionaires, second homes or principal. 80.
Wow.
Yeah, you should see the airport on any holiday with all the heavy iron on the, it's just crazy. And so I've talked to people who their pilots have to drop them off and go
My
park
gosh.
somewhere else and come back when it's time for the pickup. So but yeah,
Wow.
so but what would happen is we have these wealthy people who are there. We have wealthy people who go visit and then they decide they have to have it and they buy and it's supply and demand. And so people are just gobbling up houses. And then it's just kept the same momentum. It's just crazy. Because through my
Wow.
history in Aspen, I've seen it go down 25% two times for sure, and maybe three at the when the dot-com bubble. But first, the energy crisis back when we were, if you had odd plates, you got gas on one day, you might be too young to remember that. But and so all the Texans sold their places because all that went down. And then the other one, of course, was 2008.
Yes.
25% across the board. You just could pull it out. But it
Wow.
seems to be sticking now.
Yeah, it does. And it actually that becomes a big piece of the book, really, which I
Mhm.
love. And we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to quick change of direction because we have to talk about Floyd before we get much further into the book and some of the inspiration behind it. Floyd, I love Floyd so much. Tell us who Floyd is and his role in this book.
Okay, well, Floyd is actually a friend's dog.
Is he
And I
really?
just, yeah, well,
Oh.
so I make, because
Oh.
he's just has the same personality. And these
Yeah.
are friends from Chicago, but I said, I'm writing a book with a dog and I'm naming it Floyd. And so we got the
Nice.
biggest kick out of that. But in the first book, of course, if you haven't read, she has just put her dog down, a golden that
Yeah.
had bad hips, big surprise there. And so she
Yeah.
hasn't had the heart to get a new dog. So in the opening of this book, she reflects on how she went and got Floyd, but Floyd played her big time.
Yes.
She wanted to get another golden, and she definitely wanted a female. And Floyd just wouldn't let her go. And then she gets him home, and he just takes off and took her a steak and walking through piles of spring mush to get this dog back. So you might know a few dogs like that.
I do. I do. I think I fell in love with Floyd because our trainer in Oklahoma had a canine who was also a lab hound mix, and
Hmm.
his name was Abe. So,
Hmm.
and so much like Floyd. I mean, just your description. I could see Abe doing the exact same thing that Floyd
Hmm.
did. But Floyd kicks off the book by bringing something back to Greta. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so first of all, we understand Floyd can be a bit problematic. So Greta's training him to be an Avie dog, and which involves burying things and having the dog recover. So she leaves the dog in the car. They go up a fictitious Gulch Creek because I didn't want to use
Mhm.
real names because they'd say, no, that faces this way and you can't.
I
But so,
understand.
in fact, I have a friend who read the book. She goes, I loved your book. She goes, am I missing something? But I don't think I've ever been to Gulch Creek. And I said, I'm a writer. I get to make things up.
Mhm.
So I stick to the Aspen geography when I'm using real names. But so she leaves the dog in the car and she cross country skis out about a mile and digs a hole and buries some things, then goes back and gets the dog. And so the dog, she gets to near where she's buried her smelly t-shirts and socks and a pair of jeans, I think. And his release is vas-y, which
I
is
love that.
French for, go ahead, allez-y. And she picked that up from the patroller from Chamonix, who she had a little fling with in Aspen when he was visiting. So she says to Floyd, vas-y. And her dog, who has the best nose of any dog ever born,
Mhm.
starts running directly for where the things are buried. And all of a sudden, Floyd sticks his nose up in the air and veers off and disappears up the hill. And she's thinking, oh my God, I picked a real winner. This dog's going to kill me. What a, crazy. And so she's faking, trying to get him back. Finally, she turns around. He comes running out. He runs up to her. He's got a mitten in his mouth. And he drops it at her feet, looking up for approval. She says, that's not the plan, Floyd. She picks up the mitten, and there's a hand in it, a human hand. So that kind of kicks off the story.
It really does. And I want to be careful not to give too much away in our interview because readers just need to read it. But I love that. I mean, the avalanche dogs are a real thing for anyone listening who maybe isn't certain. They find victims in avalanches. So I love that he went and found this hand and it kicked off this whole story. And
Mm-hmm.
then you introduce us some backstory and current story to Evie and Judy, Greta's friends. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, wow, they really seem like they fit what I think of as Aspen. And keep in mind, I haven't been there in a long time, but Judy has sort of married into some money. Evie's found her way, but they all live together and
Well,
to make ends
well,
meet, right?
right until really, I'd say last uh, 15 years, there was still a lot of community
Mhm.
and and then people coming as ski bums looking for jobs and you sleep wherever you can. There'd be 10 people in houses. And so these girls all came right after the turn of the century, around
Yeah.
2000. And they just were the freshman class of that year, so to speak. And so they created the same kind of friendships you have when you're always looking for somewhere to live, but the same friends, and you look for the same deals of where to eat and how to afford things. But it's fun.
Yeah.
It's more of a challenge than just, going and throwing your credit card out. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how, and then they also have the three of them have problematic childhoods, as many
Yeah.
people do. One of them wears it more on her sleeve than the other. And so, well, in fact, so Judy, her, what do I want to say? Oh gosh, her, not whatever she's carrying from childhood is that she grew up in Belleville, Washington, which is where Microsoft was born, Bill Gates. And her father was a truck driver. So she grew up with all the Microsoft millionaires, millionaires then, who had everything and she didn't. And so she just couldn't, she had a complex about it. That's the word I was looking for. Has a complex. And so she just can't get past that. And so
Yeah.
that's her shortcoming. And then Evie grew up with hippie parents who they'd be parked in a van for a period of time. She'd go to school somewhere and then they'd move on to somewhere else. So she didn't really have any home and roots.
Yeah.
And then Greta is the daughter of a single mother. She has no idea who her father is. Her mother is Swedish from Sweden, and well, and her mother got sick, and she took care of her mother, and her mother died, and so that freed her to get in a car and go where she wanted to go, and she moved to Aspen in a car that she said made her look like an Okie. If you remember
I love that.
Okies, grapes for half, yes.
Yeah, I love that. And then there's Marianelle. Am I saying her name right? Marianelle?
Yes, Mary now.
Yeah, and she kind of became like a mother to these three. They worked for her. They didn't get away with much.
Hmm.
Like they had to do their job, but it seemed like she really took them under her wing and really was a mother figure throughout the book. I really enjoyed her.
And once again, this is older Aspen because 20, 30, 40 years ago, there were all these small lodges, and the owners were very connected to each other, and hiring staff was impossible. In fact, even back then, they built housing underneath the lodges as they built them, like
Oh,
dorms.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and that way they would have help for the whole season because if you didn't have a place to live, if you didn't show up for work, you didn't have a place to live. And then people would get ski passes, which what happened with me, had ski pass and as a maid, clean in the morning and ski in the afternoon, 1 day off a week. And so Mary Nell's a little bit modeled after my
Yeah.
previous boss, Vivian Goodnow in the Snowflake Lodge of Aspen,
Okay.
which is now limelighted about 1,200 bucks a night when it's cheap because
My
they've torn
gosh.
it down. All,
Wow.
all the little ski lodges are gone. I think there are about two or three left.
Oh, that's too bad.
I
It's
know.
really
And
too
then
bad.
yeah, it is. So when you come up to Aspen, you won't believe it. You won't recognize it. So, but
Yeah.
that's progress.
It is. It is. Colorado, I think, is in an interesting time right now where we we are having this big, I just recently did a trip over to Grand Junction and back. So you see the I-70 corridor over the mountains and these big
Oh, all the
houses and
building. Yes. Uh-huh.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. If I were the king of Aspen, there was zoning. And you can only
Yeah.
go so high and you can only be so big. And people would buy something on a lot and they want to tear it down, as I allude to in the book. And
Yeah.
they'd go in for permits and say, well, I paid this much, so I should be able to do this. And if I were the
Yeah.
king, I'd say, well, sorry, that's the zoning. But it just kept going and going, and people got loopholes, and it just
Yeah.
to my mind's eye, got out of control because it's Aspen is still one of the most beautiful places you'll ever
Yeah.
see. It's at the end of a valley, it circles the town. You still have a lot of the original
Yeah.
mining buildings, but it's lost a lot of the charm.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's stunningly beautiful, but the charm, the soul has pretty much disappeared. There's
Yeah.
still, and I shouldn't be so down, because there still is a really good core, but it just, as people age out, instead of the families staying, people move on. So that's sad, but I think that's just about anywhere now.
I think it is too. And I love how you brought that into the mystery. I mean, this wasn't just being written as like a statement about change. It actually played a big role in the mystery. And again, I'm trying not to say too much, but I liked how you wove that in. It was a big motivator for, I mean, money becomes a big motivator for and greed
Anything.
for
Yeah.
murder, right?
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Authors were like mothers. You can't say anything bad about my kid, right?
Right.
Or my dog.
Right. Exactly.
You can talk about
Yeah.
anything. You can slam the boyfriend, the husband, but nothing bad
Yeah.
about the books or the dogs. So,
Exactly, exactly. And that's where I thought it was fun too. You brought in an author character, which I really enjoyed. He was wanting to meet with Greta to research the ski patrol, but his book also plays a little bit of a role in
it
this.
does. Well, first, there are also, just like there are a lot of billionaires, there are a lot of authors that live in Aspen or have second homes. And
Okay.
so, yeah, but so it's based on that model. So that's all
Okay.
I can say about him, except that he's pretty respectful, Aspen, and
Yeah.
he's respectful of other people, and he's a writer, and he's a character, and he's an interesting character. That's
He is. He is. Yeah, we're both trying to be careful not to say too much, but
well, in fact,
yeah.
I would say he's a little bit based on Leon Uris, who lived
Okay.
in Aspen. Yeah, he lived in
Okay.
Aspen. Of course, he's
Wow.
deceased now, but yeah, because I read a lot of Leanne Uris. And then just because he lived in the town, it kind of inspired me to name
That's
that,
cool.
to put that character in. So, but of
Oh,
course,
nice.
Leanne Uris did not write horror.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah,
unless you
and
think
this,
Axis.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, that's and another point you made that I just really loved in the book, because this is what I think of when I go to the mountains, is it doesn't matter. You can enjoy a hike, you can enjoy the beauty of the outdoors and have nothing, and or you can have millions. So I loved how you put that in.
Yeah, you can't price it.
No,
No, you don't
no,
enjoy it more because you have more money. And
no.
sometimes I think you enjoy it less because you're too sheltered and taken care of it instead of being out there trying to
Yeah,
figure it out on your own.
yeah, yeah.
In fact, so hike a lot in the summer course and with the wildflowers up at in fact on the cover of this book, the graphic artist just did it without me saying anything because no one ever lets me have any input on cover, but it's the maroon bells. So
Oh,
and this
I thought it was. Okay.
and it's a British
Yes.
publisher. So I was really excited. So that obviously the guy did his homework. But so I have friends who work up at the Bells as volunteers. And in the summer, they will actually have people say, who planted all these flowers?
Oh, no, no. Yes.
Seriously, seriously. Because it's just so much like a Monet painting that so we laugh at that. Oh, God did that.
Yeah.
Very
That's
good
right. I believe
a
it.
very good landscape architect.
Yes, the best one out there. Yeah. Oh man, I've actually never been up to the Maroon Bells, like up in that area where you're talking about. So I'm gonna put that on my list. And I also thought I would love to get back to Aspen, because there's an Aspen Literary Festival now, and you're involved with that. Is that right?
Well, this year I just rolled off because of time limits, yes, but I've been on
Okay.
the board of Aspen, where it used to be Aspen Literary Foundation. Wait, Aspen
Okay.
Writers Foundation, excuse me.
Okay.
And then they changed the name um, more because people called thinking they would donate to writers, but it was more promoting writers. So now it's Aspen
Okay.
Words. But yeah, and they just started, I say they because I'm off the board now, just started a literary festival in this
Yeah.
autumn. There's just incredible. The writers we had come in and speak.
Yeah.
It's very Aspen. That's the thing, Aspen. You have the Aspen Institute. You get the most famous or most um, acknowledged writers and speakers in the world, and all the presidents and prime
Yeah.
ministers and scientists and uh, lots.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, I have that on my radar. I thought it's a
Well, come up.
drivable distance for me. So I'd
Well,
love to
come up.
go.
You can stay with me. Come up. Really.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad.
We'll have to talk about that. Would be fun. So, you mentioned you have another book going with Greta. Tell us a little bit about that. And Floyd, will Floyd be in the next book too?
Of course, Floyd is.
Okay,
So,
good.
and actually, I'm working on it. I'm on a deadline now, and I well, not had. I went to Mexico for my cousin's 70th birthday, and we were in Cabo, and she rented this beautiful house, and it poured rain one night,
Oh
and the
no.
next day everything was really wet, and I slipped on marble.
Oh
I mean,
no.
it was impossible to not slip. It was like black ice, black
Yeah.
ice, right?
Oh yeah.
And I went down and broke my right wrist. So I had to call
Oh
so I had to call my publisher and say,
no.
gonna be a little late, because I'd use a lot of longhand in my writing, and then I'll put it
Yeah.
on the computer the next day because my brain works better hand to paper. And I hate
Okay.
quotation marks. It drives me nuts. It breaks my train of thought doing quotation. And dialogue, of course, is so important. So often with dialogue, I'll just stand right out longhand. But I couldn't write and I couldn't type because the cast I had would like bump on the thing. So anyhow, that's my long way of telling you I'm finishing it up right now.
Oh,
So,
good.
but the opening scene, first Greta lives in an A-frame up Independence
Yes.
Pass. And I was with a guy who's a longtime volunteer fireman. I mean, this guy's 80 something. He's been in Aspen forever. He's been on mountain rescue. He's done everything. So I was saying, yeah, my protagonist, she's a ski patroller and she lives in an A-frame up Independence. And he says, no ski patroller could form an A-frame up Independence. I said, well, a ski patroller who took care of an aging ski bum who died and
Yes.
left it to her in a life estate can live in one. And he said, oh, yeah, that would work. So anyhow, so she lives in this A-frame at the end of a street, dead end street, of course, and there's only one other house. But now she lets Floyd out the door in the morning, as she always says in this new book, and he goes bolting across the yard to his favorite place in the woods. But he's halfway there and he stops dead in his tracks and turns around, goes running back in the house because she leaves the door. And he goes running in. He doesn't stop. He goes right into the living room. He's digging to get under the sofa. And
Oh
she says,
no.
what is your prob? There's a huge explosion.
Oh my gosh.
But he sensed it. And
Yeah.
so that's the opening scene. And
Oh, I
then
love it.
and then things happen. So
And
um
will Sheriff Dan be back in that one too? And
Sheriff
Mary?
Dan's in there, yes, who she's
Okay.
known since he pulled her over on her way when she was ski instructor, pulled her over on her way to work. And instead of getting a ticket, he asked her for a date. And
Yes.
so she went out on the date not to get the ticket, but she made it pretty clear there wasn't anything going to happen with them. So instead they became good friends. So she says, well, I'd rather stay friends than have had the other thing
Yeah.
happening. Yes.
Yeah. Well, good. And will Mary and Al be back with her chickens and
Ah,
or
well,
maybe I shouldn't ask about that. Maybe we need to if we need to leave that one alone, I can. I don't want to give anything away.
and Marinelle surfaces, but not
Okay.
as significantly as she was in the first one. So
Okay. Sounds good.
it's
And
once again back to Marinelle. She's so typical of the lodge owner back then, and her daughter climbs Everest or goes to climb out, and they just did everything. The lodge owner I worked for, as soon as the season was over, the town shut down back then, shut down.
yeah.
And people would go around the world or they'd go pet the whales. And the lodge owners all knew people who'd stayed with them who'd invited them to their exotic locales.
Wow.
So that was Mary Nell's background
Okay. Yeah, I just
when they did.
really liked her. She was just such a great character.
She was. And they lived in Alaska for a while. I
That's
don't know if you
right.
remember that part. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it didn't last super long, but
Oh, I love it. And her chickens. I love the chickens. And there's a, I think we can say there's a dispute with the chickens. And I'm not going to say how it resolves because I literally loved it and laughed out loud at the end when you resolved
well,
it. So,
I had so much fun with Mary Nell and those chickens.
yes.
And I can't give it away either. But as a writer, I know where I want to go and I have to figure out how to get there. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do with Mary now and these chickens?
Yeah.
And one day I was hiking and then I said, of course. And
Yeah.
after taking a few flights with pets next to me, then I said,
Yes.
of course. So
Yeah,
I really entertained myself on that one.
well, you entertained me as well. And I just thought, because yeah, the whole book, I thought, what is going to happen with these chickens? And then I got to the end, I'm like, I loved what you did with them. So now everyone just has to read it. If nothing else, you have to find out what happens to the chickens. So,
Right. Right. And those fresh eggs every morning.
yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there's, I mean, it again, when we were doing this drive and I just read your book and we're driving I-70 and you see, you don't get very far out of Vale and you start seeing the cattle ranches and the big houses and it's like, wow, this really is Colorado really
Quite a
is an
dichotomy,
interesting.
huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Yeah. So well, cool. I could talk to you all day about Colorado, but I know I don't want to keep you too much longer. So what's the best way for readers to connect with you? Social media, author newsletter?
I am so remiss in all these things. I'm on Instagram. I have a
Okay.
website. uh, I guess my website because it has a contact
Okay,
thing, and
great.
Instagram, Facebook. I do it all. And the thing with writing nowadays, to sell, you have to be engaged in selling, selling. And I was really rolling before COVID, and so I confessed it, kind of letting that just go thunk. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get rolling again. In fact, I have a guy who's putting together six little skits out of
Fun.
Steep and Deep. And we're
Oh,
just going to keep
cool.
posting them. Yeah, just
Oh,
scenes that
very
kind
cool.
of give the feel of everything that's going on. So that'll be
Okay.
coming up. But
Oh, fun.
yeah, anybody's welcome to write me at Kathy and Aspen at AOL.com. I answer
Okay.
anything I get. But also, if you hit contact on my website, that's where comes to me. So
Okay. Well,
that is that.
perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's so fun to talk to another Colorado girl
It
and
is.
also to talk to somebody with a similar name.
Yes, yes. I know.
The
I feel
Irish
like
and the
we're
Irish.
the
Yes.
Irish names. Yes, I agree. I
Faith and
agree.
faith and so. Well, the greatest writers are British or Irish. We're Irish.
I'll go with that. I love it.
Well, and you know what? Because we're storytellers. We really are.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It is. That is very true. I hadn't really thought about that, but that is the Irish tradition. So I
Mm-hmm.
love it. I love it. Well, everyone, the book is Steep and Deep. Make sure you check it out if you love mountains as a character and scenery and amazing mystery and a wonderful pet. Well, not a pet, a wonderful avalanche dog named Floyd. You need to check it out. And until next time, keep your tails wagging and pages turning. Thanks for joining me today. Sit, Stay, Read is a part of the Authors on the Air Global Network. If you enjoyed today's author interview, be sure to leave a review and share the episode with a fellow animal-loving reader. If you're curious about the world of working dogs and wilderness adventures, please check out my books at KathleenDonnelly.com. Until next time, curl up with your best furry friend and sit, stay, read.